Hi, so this is a video on 2.1. Okay, so this is linear motion lah basically. So linear motion means that it's a motion in a straight line. Okay, so look at the next one. Okay, so the first thing, so this video is mainly about the definitions of the things that you need to know for this chapter. So we have, for the first one, is a distance and displacement. Okay, so distance is the length of actual path between 2 points. However, displacement is the shortest distance between the initial and final point in a straight line. Okay, so for example, if you are here, this is you, then this is your, I don't know, school. Okay, so if you are walking towards your school, for example, it's taking 5 kilometer. Okay, then this is 5 kilometer one way lah. So then you go back to your house, another 5 kilometer. Okay, so your total distance traveled during the journey will be 5 plus 5 kilometer, which is 10 kilometer. However, for the displacement pula, it will be 0 kilometer. Why is it 0? Because it's the shortest distance with the initial and final point in a straight line. So because that initial point and final point is on the same place, therefore is a 0 kilometer. Remember that in physics, unit is very important. So though it's a 0, you need to put in the unit as well. Okay, the difference between them is distance is scalar quantity and displacement is a vector quantity. Means that for distance, we only take considerations of the magnitude. However, for displacement, we need to take into considerations the direction as well. Okay, so I got a question here. So a honeybee travels 2 kilometers looking for a nectar and return to its hive. Is the displacement the same as the distance traveled? Explain your answer. Okay, so for this kind of question, it is similar to the previous example that I gave. So for example, we have bees here. Okay, so this is the hive lah. Macam mana nak lukis ni? So this is the hive. Then bees go away for another 2 kilometer, then it goes back to another 2 kilometer. Okay, so the displacement will be equal to 0 kilometer and distance will be 4 kilometer. Okay, so how do we explain your answer? Just give the definition of it lah, because the distance is the total distance traveled by the bees, and the displacement is shortest distance between the initial and final positions of the bee. Okay, next one is speed and velocity. Okay, so what is the difference between them? Speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is a vector quantity. So normally when we talk about velocity, we need to include the direction as well. So for example, if you say that you're walking 10 kilometer, so 10 kilometer is a speed. 10 km per hour is your speed lah. So if you are saying that you are walking 10 km per hour towards north, so that will be velocity because you include the direction in it. Okay, for speed, how do we calculate speed? Speed is the total distance over time interval. So total distance 10 km. So for example, 10 km. So how long you take to travel for 10 km? Sorry. So for example, it's 1 second. So got 10 km per second, which is impossible lah, tapi tak apa. Okay, so kalau ni velocity, total displacement over time interval. So the difference will be, for one part is the total distance, another will be total displacement. So tak sama lah, right? Okay, so that most of you guys have travelled using the car kan. So dekat dashboard tu dia ada speedometer. Another one ni is for RAM lah, for RPM, sorry, revolution per minute. Okay, so kalau you tengok dekat sini, does the speedometer of a car measure speed or velocity? Speedometer is this one, the thing inside show you kilometer per hour. So kalau awak tengah bosan, awak pecut sampai 240, so kena saman. So yang ni tunjuk apa? Speed or velocity. Okay, so basically speedometer, the clue is speedometer here lah. So a speedometer, of course, is going to show speed. Why is it showing only speed? Because dekat speedometer ni we can only know the magnitude of the velocity ataupun the speed only lah. the magnitude or the velocity, which is the speed. It doesn't include the direction that your motion towards to where. Okay, because a speedometer can only show the magnitude, therefore it only shows the speed. Okay, so the next question, if the velocity of an object is constant, can its speed varies? Boleh ke tidak? Okay, so kita kata kat sini, kalau speed, dia mesti ada magnitude dan juga direction. Okay, so means that if the velocity is constant, the magnitude is constant, the direction also constant. So, the speed cannot be varies lah. Sebab speed ni sama dengan magnitude of velocity. Okay, kalau speed, tak apalah, terus mepet lah. Okay, faham tak? Because velocity ni include magnitude and direction. Kalau kita kata velocity of an object constant, means that the magnitude constant, direction constant. For example, kalau dia bergerak 10 meter per second towards south. Okay, kalau when we say it's a constant, means that your car, you are travelling 10 meter per second towards south all the time. So speed ni basically sama dengan 10 meter per second. So kalau velocity dia dah constant, speed dia mesti constant juga. Okay, so next one is velocity. For velocity we have three terms. They will be used. First is instantaneous velocity, average velocity, and also uniform velocity. So instantaneous velocity ni, how do we know? So it's a velocity at a certain time along the path of motion. So kalau dekat sini instantaneous velocity ni, kita boleh juga cakap as V equal to ds over dt. We got to differentiate the displacement equation. There are several equation example in the lecture notes. Guna yang ini However, for average velocity is the rate change of displacement. So maksudnya kalau V average, dia akan macam ni lah. V average is equal to V final minus V initial over T final minus T initial. So the difference, how do we know? The differences between these two is, kalau soalan tanya pasal instantaneous, dia mesti one time saja. So for example, what is the velocity when T is 5 second? That is instantaneous. At that certain moment, berapa velocity? However, for average pula, dia mesti bagi time range. Dia mesti bagi tahu 1 sampai 5, 2 sampai 10, macam tu. So this is average velocity. So final velocity minus initial velocity. So for term of average, basically we ignore the things that happen in between the journey. Maksudnya kita ambil kisah pun 2 second jadi apa, 3 second jadi apa. We just take into account 1 second jadi apa and 5 second. What is the velocity when 5 second? Okay, another one yang saya nak explain kat sini is, ni velocity average kalau average speed, sorry. For average speed, okay, average speed ni sama juga. Dia mesti bagi time range, tapi calculation dia berbeza. Kalau tadi, sorry, ni saya salah lah, maaf. Kan, velocity final. No. Final displacement minus initial displacement. Okay. So, kalau average speed pula adalah, tadi displacement distance, total distance at the first final time. Total distance, katalah 1 second to 5 second. So average speed is total distance when T sama dengan 5 second minus total distance when T is 1 second. Lepas tu over T final minus T initial lah, which is 5 minus 1, for example, like that. So the difference between them is the average velocity, we are talking about displacement. Average speed, we are talking about the change in distance travel. Okay, the last one kita ada uniform velocity. Uniform velocity ni is a constant velocity lah. Maksudnya throughout the journey, velocity dia sama sahaja. As I said, uniform ni same definition as constant. Okay, lastly kita ada acceleration. So acceleration is a vector quantity. Sebenarnya acceleration ni kalau unit dia will be ms, negative tu lah. Dia will be dia punya SI unit. Okay, so, salah lah ni. Nak tukar. So this will be acceleration. I was copying something else. Acceleration is equal to change in velocity over time interval. Acceleration occurs due to change in velocity. Either the magnitude changes. Okay, contohnya daripada 10 meter per second pergi ke 20 meter per second. So the magnitude of the velocity berubah. Okay, ataupun it occurs due to the change in the direction. So for example, you are moving 10 meter per second to the right. Alah, buat macam ni, kita buat macam ni sekejap. So first kita ada kereta kat sini. So at first you're moving 10 meter per second to the right lah. Then they make a U-turn. So bila they make a U-turn, it's still moving 10 meter per second, tapi to the left. Okay, so acceleration dia akan final, katalah because acceleration is a vector quantity, we need to put into account the direction. So kalau it's to the left, for example, kita jadikan dia -10. Okay, minus initial velocity dia, which is to the right 10 meter per second. Kalau ke kanan positif 10, bagi katalah time taken for the changes to occur adalah 2. So -20 divided by 2, so dapat -10 meter per second square. Though the magnitude is the same as the direction change, and also it also can make acceleration to occur, ataupun due to the changes in both magnitude and direction. So samalah. Okay, dua-dua berubah. Okay, dan kita ada deceleration. Deceleration ni pula adalah negative acceleration. So negative acceleration ni berlaku bila? Apabila object is slowing down. Bila object is slowing down means that velocity decreases with time. Okay, katalah daripada 20 meter per second, then you see a red light, traffic light kan, then you stop sampai jadi 2 meter per second. So means that the velocity decreases with time lah. Okay, deceleration basically is meant by the directions of acceleration is the opposite to the directions of motion. So kalau you tengok, refer to this diagram. So acceleration is to the left, but your car is moving to the right. So bila your car is moving in the opposite directions of the acceleration, deceleration occurs. Okay, then kita ada 3 acceleration ni, samalah instantaneous, average acceleration dan uniform acceleration. So kalau this one ni adalah A equals to V instantaneous dv over dt, ataupun d square s over dt square. Okay, kalau average acceleration, A average equals to V final minus V initial over D final minus D initial. Then we have uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration, same as before lah, is a constant. Acceleration means that the rate change of velocity is constant. Okay, I think that's about it for the definition. Soalan ni memang akan keluar untuk graph lah. So lepas ni awak akan tengok explanation untuk graph lah. Okay, so thank you for that.